If you've ever been deep in a project, maybe hours from a deadline, and the team is just in that state of flow.
That perfect focus, yeah.
Exactly. And then it happens. That one email, that small, quick change that has to happen now.
Ugh, the sound of scope creep. It's less of a creep and more of an explosion.
It's a demolition charge. It just shatters everything. And that feeling is what we're here to talk about today.
To neutralize it, really.
Yes. Our mission for this deep dive is to unpack a really powerful decision tree. It's a simple kind of 4-question flow designed to handle those mid-sprint changes.
And the goal, according to the source material, is to protect that focus you mentioned, but without losing all your flexibility.
Right, because you can't just say no to everything.
You can't. And the source is pretty blunt about this. It says most teams either have a rigid no, which, kills trust, or a panicked yes, which just guarantees chaos.
So it's about finding that middle ground.
It is. The framework gives you clarity. I love this quote from the source. Changing mid-sprint isn't failure. Changing without clarity, that's chaos.
That's it right there. This deep dive is about that structure, that clarity.
So every discussion has to start with one simple question.
Is this a proposed mid-sprint change? If yes, then you're in the flow. And that flow starts with the non-negotiables, the things you just have to accept.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's unpack that first path, the one for mandated acceptance. It's all about criticality.
Right.
First question the tree asks is it a blocker or a critical bug? And this is the definition of a necessary interruption, isn't it?
It is, and the source is really clear that this isn't something you debate. There's no prioritization meeting for this.
So what's the distinction? What makes a bug critical versus just annoying?
A great question. A critical bug is not a typo or a button being a few pixels off. A critical bug means the whole system is failing its main job.
The site is down.
The site is down, a core feature is completely broken, or, and this is key, a customer is literally blocked from doing their work.
So if the answer is a hard yes to any of those,
it's an immediate ASAPT. The action item is just as blunt. Bring to team ASAPT, no delay.
And what I like about that is it removes the whole psychological weight of having to decide if it's an emergency. The framework decides for you.
It does, and the ownership for this ASAPT is fascinating. The action is add and realign the team.
And who owns that? The product owner.
It's shared. The PO and the development team. It's a joint ownership model.
Why is that so important?
Well, because when an emergency hits, it's not one person's problem to solve. Everyone has to help stabilize the situation and reset expectations. It makes it a team response, not a blame game.
I really like that. It turns a potential crisis into like a unified mission.
Exactly.
But there's a second type of non-negotiable interruption, right? It's not about a bug.
No, this one's external. It's the next question you ask. Is it regulatory or legally required?
Okay. So this also leads to an acceptance.
It does, but for a totally different reason. We're talking about things like an urgent compliance fix or a security patch that you have to implement or an audit finding.
Things that carry a real penalty if you ignore them.
A financial or legal penalty, yeah. It's not about usability. It's about, existential business risk.
So if the answer is yes, again, it's ACCPT, but the escalation's a little different, isn't it?
It is. The action is to escalate to PO and the dev team. The PO really takes the lead on the communication here.
Why the distinction?
It's about managing perception. The PO needs to frame it for the team not as just another interruption, but as a necessary act of compliance. It helps everyone understand why this, out of everything else, has to break the sprint plan.
Okay, let's unpack the next part because this is where it gets, I think, really interesting. We're moving away from those hard, rigid mandates into negotiation and, relationship management.
Soft power, exactly.
Yeah. So once you're past the, is it on fire? And will we get sued? Questions. The next decision point is all about promises. It asks, was it already promised to a customer?
And the context here is super strict. The source makes it clear this isn't just some item on a roadmap someone hopes for.
So not a nice to have.
Definitely not. We're talking a documented promise from sales, a guarantee made by customer success to keep a client from churning.
Or something that was explicitly pre-committed.
Yes. If you break this promise, you're not just delaying a feature, you could lose a customer.
Okay, so here's the question then. If it's that important, why isn't it just another immediate accept? I mean, a huge customer promise seems like it should justify blowing up the sprint.
And that's the absolute core tension this framework is built to solve. If you said accept to every single customer promise, you'd never hit a sprint goal. The team would just burn out.
Right.
So the framework says the relationship is critical, but so is the delivery rhythm. You have to protect both.
And that's where the swap comes in.
That's the mechanism. The PO's job is to review the scope and find a trade-off. The ideal move is to swap something out.
Something of the same size. Now, I want to push back on that a bit. Same size sounds great in a diagram, but how does that actually work? Are we just guessing?
That's a perfect question. No, it's not a guess. The source is based in Agile practice, so size means effort. Complexity.
Story points.
Exactly. Story points or something similar. The PO looks at the new item, say it's an 8-point story. They then have to go into the current sprint plan and find another 8 points worth of work to pull out.
So the total effort for the sprint stays the same. The budget is fixed.
The budget is fixed. And the most important action here is that the PO must communicate the change transparently to the team.
So everyone knows why the priority changed and what they can now drop.
It's the only way to protect morale. The negotiation is external with the customer, but the trade-off is managed with total transparency inside the team.
So the decision is swap. The action is trade story for new item, and the owner is the PO.
But with dev input, crucially, the dev team has to validate that the trade is actually fair and technically makes sense. The PO owns the what, but the team owns the how and the how much.
It's a really balanced process.
Yeah, it has to be.
Okay, so if we haven't hit an accept and we haven't done a swap, we get to the final filter, and this one feels like a test of discipline.
It really is. The question is simple. Can it wait until the next sprint without impact?
This should be the default answer for most new ideas, right?
90% of them, ideally. Yeah. And the source gives you a checklist for what a yes looks like here. No risk, no urgency, no broken trust.
A perfect scenario for like a small feature improvement or a new idea that just popped up.
Exactly. And if the answer is yes, the decision is the best one for focus. Defer. The action is just add to upcoming sprint.
And the PO owns that. They just thank the person for the idea and put it in the backlog for the next cycle. Done.
It's process control in its purest form. You're protecting the work that's already committed.
But let's talk about the hard part, the final hurdle. What if it wasn't a blocker or regulatory or a promise, but you still can't wait? The answer to the deferral test is NO.
Yes, the last-ditch scenario. If you get an NO there, the framework mandates one final collaborative step.
A discussion.
A mandatory discussion. The action is PO and dev team discuss risk versus value.
So you're forced to have a real conversation about it.
You are. The team has to weigh the cost of interrupting everything, the loss of focus, the risk of new bugs against the actual value of this new thing. And what's the consequence if we wait just 2 more weeks?
This is the only point in the whole flow where the team has to collaboratively justify a disruption that wasn't, a clear-cut emergency.
And that's why it's so powerful. It means a stakeholder can't just force their urgency on the team. The PO has to show up with a real business case that justifies the sacrifice.
The whole thing is just brilliant. It's taking all the arbitrary emotional decision-making and replacing it with the structured, logical inquiry. So let's tie all this together for you, the listener. Let's look at the practical takeaway here, which is basically 3 definitive actions, each with a clear owner.
Right. This is the summary of the whole system. First, you have accept.
Reserved for those crises, the bugs, the legal stuff.
Yep. The action is add and realign team, and ownership is shared. PO plus the dev team. It signals everyone is in this together to stabilize things.
Then you have the second model, the swap.
The negotiated trade. This is for protecting those key customer promises.
The action is trade story for new item, and the owner is the PO, but with that critical dev input to make sure the trade is fair.
Exactly. And finally, the third model, which should be the most common one.
Defer.
The best path for focus. If it doesn't meet the criteria for the other 2, or if it can just wait, you park it.
The action is park for later sprint. And the owner is the PO, all by themselves. They manage the backlog. They don't need to interrupt the team.
It's so clean.
When you lay it all out like that, what really stands out is how this structure, critical, legal, promised, deferrable, it protects the 2 things that matter most.
Delivery and relationship.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You protect delivery by only disrupting it for true emergencies or balanced trades. And you protect relationships by giving those committed items a special path.
It really is that aha moment of process control. You stop having the emotional, oh no, a change conversation.
And you start having the structured, okay, where does this fit in the decision tree? conversation.
It shifts the entire debate from if we should do it to how we do it responsibly.
The simple flow is just such a powerful tool for preventing chaos. It creates clarity where there's usually just ambiguity and panic. So here's our final thought for you to chew on. This structured approach brings immediate clarity to managing mid-sprint change. So what other common high-friction processes in your work?
Like maybe budget approvals, or even just triaging meeting requests.
Yeah, exactly. What other things could benefit from a similar, simple decision tree to establish clear boundaries and accountability? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.